What's your name and where you from?
My name is Tunji. I'm from East London. Some might know me as Lockdown T.
So, was you born and raised in East London, yeah?
Yeah. Born and raised in East London.
What was life like growing up?
Life was cool. I did 10 years in East London and then I went to Kent. So I've kind of had like a bit of a hybrid experience. So obviously the first 10 years of my life, I was very young. So it was just about playing football, my mum dragging me to church, all them kind of things there. And then obviously when I went to Kent, that was a bit of a different experience. At that time, like not many Black people were in Kent at the time. So going from where I was to then going there, it was quite a change, to be honest. Took me a lot of time to adjust, but it was cool and I value it now, to be honest, like looking back. But yeah, it was nice to, I think, like get two different perspectives of life, one in London, one in somewhere a little bit out.
Why do you think there was a lot to adjust to when you moved to Kent?
Mainly it was just like feeling very isolated because obviously like the school that I was at, so I went to school in Barking, and it was like very diverse, innit? Very diverse school, Church of England school as well. It was just what I knew. And then I went to Kent and the school, like the primary school that I went to, it was like in a small village. I was literally the only Black boy in the school, I think. Yeah, I was definitely the only Black boy in the school. Yeah, that was my primary school, definitely. And yeah, it was just a bit like crazy to step into somewhere where I felt like my mum had almost betrayed me almost. I was like, why are you taking me here? You're taking me away from my friends and putting me into this school where I don't know anyone. I'm nervous. I'm shy. Not that I was a shy kid, but in that kind of environment where you don't know anyone, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That comes with it. So it was just hard to adjust. I didn't like face any necessary like issues when it comes to, I don't know, them segregating me or whatever. Like it was nothing like that, but it was just that almost elephant in the room as a young kid trying to identify why you feel a certain type of way. And it's just evidently because when you're looking around, you're seeing people that kind of like don't look like you as such.
Yeah.
So it's just, it was just navigating that kind of, that difference, you know what I mean?
I mean, did you find at times that you just weren't able to be yourself, and did that ever impact you growing up?
I don't think it was about me not being able to be myself. I don't think I ever felt like I couldn't be myself. I just felt like I was a bit of an outsider.
Got you.
But the thing with me is like, as I said, I don't lack confidence, right? So as a young kid, I knew I liked football, which meant that every playtime I go out and I play football with whoever was playing. Like I didn't really have to feel as if I needed to be invited in order to play. So naturally I was able to like create some relations with some of the boys in my class, which have like now proven to be some of my greatest friendships that I have. Do you know what I mean? But at the time, it was just kind of about trying to, I suppose, like step out of my comfort zone and just be like, all right, cool. Let me really try and just like connect with people. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, football was one of the like good ways that I was able to do that. It didn't take long as well. It didn't take long for me to start feeling comfortable in that place and whatnot. So yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned your mum a couple of times.
Yeah.
Take me back and talk to me a little bit more about what your home dynamic was like growing up.
Yeah. So it was pretty good. My mum and my dad did split up when I was about 5 years old. But I feel like I was a little bit too young to kind of like understand it. Regardless of them splitting up, I still like had a good relationship with both of them. And there was like always encouragement to make sure that like I see, or so obviously I live with my mum, but going and seeing my dad, you know what I mean? So yeah, that was cool. But obviously there was like a rift that it created, and there was kind of this thing of like there was a separation. It was clear. It was like, you know, my dad now wasn't in the house as much. But I think it was still cool because I put myself into things, or my mum and my dad obviously both encouraged me to do things like sports and, you know, keep up with my school grades and whatnot. Like, yeah, I think probably for me, I was quite young, so I don't feel like it affected me too much at that stage. But it was quite similar actually with a lot of like my friends around. They kind of like came from, a lot of them came from some single parent households as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, one of my close friends, I would go to his yard, his mum and his dad would be there. I'd be like, oh, okay, like this is, you know, a bit different. But then I'd go to other friends' houses where it was just their mum. So it wasn't too, it didn't feel like too much of a crazy situation to me.
Yeah. But you mentioned that it didn't really have much of an impact on you when you were young. But do you think it did as you grew older? You started to realize a little bit more what was going on?
Yeah, I think like naturally, like as you start to get older, you start to take in certain things that maybe you wouldn't have clocked like when you were younger. So maybe just like comments from either side directed at the other, where you feel as if like, now I don't know who to side with. Do you know what I mean? I think that was probably a bit of a conflict for me growing up a little bit more. I don't think I understood exactly the reasons as to why things went that way with my parents at the time. But as I got older, I started to kind of clock certain things, but then it built up a bit of a conflict in my mind because I felt as if, because I hadn't lived those experiences, my feelings towards like certain, like my feelings towards my mum and my dad were almost a bit, it's kind of like I didn't know who to necessarily side with. I didn't have to side with anyone, but it felt like I had to side with someone. So that was a bit tough for me, I would say. But I think I managed to kind of go through the motions with it.
Yeah. It sounds like it would have had a big impact on the relationship you would have liked to have with them.
I think luckily I'm okay that the relationship that I have with my parents is like very good now. I think, yes, if they had stayed together, then maybe there would have been a different dynamic. Do you know what I mean? And it would have been not necessarily better, not necessarily worse, just different. But I still see the beauty in what has come. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I know you spoke a lot about family and you've spoken a lot about friends. It seems to me that you've had community around you whenever you've needed it. Talk to me about a moment that maybe you went through where community was really important for you, or maybe you wish you utilized community more.
My network and my support system has been really important to me when my girlfriend died in 2019. So it was kind of a bit of a crazy time, obviously. It was all very quick as well. It's like 1 week, she kind of fell ill. And then within 7 days, she went. So that time for me was so important for my community, my family, my friends, to be around me, and also for me to like lean on God, because it just felt like, it was a mad time. It was a very mad time for me.
Can you describe a little bit more about how you were feeling when you heard the news and then also when it happened?
Yeah, it was a weird one because like I'd been with her throughout the whole of like her deterioration. So it kind of started, let's say like 4 days before she went into the hospital. But it was just kind of like, it just kind of looked like quite a bad flu or something like that, you know? So there was this kind of like, there was this like, I could physically see the deterioration and like the progression of the illness. So it wasn't like, it was a shock obviously when I got told that she passed away. But I was there for quite a lot of it in order to see that deterioration. And that was obviously like a very hard thing for me to see. You know, I was 21 at the time, pretty, yes, fresh out of uni actually. Hadn't even started like my grad job. And then, yeah, it happened then. So it was a very like confusing time for me because you just don't really think that like someone who you love that much is going to, and someone so young as well, is gonna pass away just for almost what felt as if no reason, you know? Yeah.
How are you today? Do you often think about it?
Yeah, like I think naturally always gonna think about that situation. It's always a situation where like she's in my heart. But then on the other hand, you do have to kind of like try and move forward. So it's been what, nearly 7 years now. I would say that the toughest times were for about a good 3 to 4 years after she passed. Like that was some of my like deepest, darkest times. But then as I've kind of found different ways to deal with that type of pain, things have become a little bit easier. And there's something that my sister-in-law kind of like said to me about grief, yeah? It's like, grief is like a dot on a piece of paper, yeah? But as time goes by and as years go on, if you circle around that dot, one radar and then another radar and another radar around it, those radars kind of represent the time. And within that time, you fill it with different experiences. So the grief always actually stays the same size and it still feels like the same way, but because you've got so many experiences that now are surrounding it, it doesn't feel as significant. Do you get it? So it always hits, and it's always like, you know, anniversaries, birthdays, you know, those are the days where like it can hit. But definitely doing much better now than I was 5-6 years ago when it was like fresh.
Yeah. Can I ask you what those dark times looks like?
Just like, felt like a void, man. Just there, like, just felt it was deep, heavy darkness. It was like, just felt like there was a void in my life. To go from being with someone for like, you know, a long time, you're with them every day, or at least I'm chatting every day to her. Do you know what I mean? And then to go from that to within a few days, her not being there at all. It was really confusing. It was really dark. It was lonely. There were days where I kind of like woke up and I just didn't really want to wake up. I wouldn't say like it was, I was in a depressive state, innit? I would definitely say I was in a depressive state. But with me, I don't like labeling it as I had depression. Although, you know, let's say I went and got maybe medically tested, they might have said that. But yeah, it was a really tough one, and it really taught me about how I need to like press into God, obviously, because I really leaned into him in those moments, which helped me to really get through the pain. But also really like don't give up on myself as well. So I would still try go on runs, still try go and play football, still try be active and just like do things. The problem with it is that it was in COVID as well. So she died in 2019, and then COVID hit November 2000 and no, it was, sorry, not November. It was August 2019, and then March 2020, COVID hit, right? So it was like a real double blow, because we went from such a great time to then her passing away to then the world getting like locked off, and it felt like so many people were also dying at that time too. So it was like a constant reminder that like death is so prevalent. Until then, I hadn't really like experienced death like that in a way that like was very close to me. Not that close anyway. So it was very hard, because it was like just a reminder every day. You know how they were chatting about like the tally of this death toll, that death toll, da 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 da. And I was just like, damn, like, I can't really like run away from this. Do you know what I mean? So it was really hard. Like, yeah, that time was really, really, really hard for me.
Yeah.
But yeah.
How would you say that shaped the way that you perceive life now, and just even relationships as well?
Yeah. So I have a different kind of motivation for life now. I think in the early years of her passing, it was my life was motivated to do good for her. That was kind of like what my motivation was back then, right? As years kind of have gone on, my motivation for life and what it has spurred me on to do is just like, there's no time to waste like going for what you want to go for. Do you know what I mean? Because I've seen life be taken away from someone who was healthy, and there were no signs of like, when life can just take you like that for no reason, it just feels like, wow, well, it can literally happen to any of us. So therefore, I really need to like make the most of what I'm doing, work super hard, and just not really feel like I've got any regrets. Do you know what I mean? It's a weird one in a way, because it makes me feel like I've got a superpower now, because it's like, I almost feel as if obviously I don't think this is true, but it almost feels like I've been at the lowest I've ever been, and it can't get any lower. So therefore it's like, it's almost like I'm invincible now. It's like, I just need to like go for what I want to go for, because I've already got through maybe the worst time in my life. So now it's like, what can stop me? I feel like it gave me that kind of a hunger. And then in terms of relationships, obviously now I've got a beautiful girlfriend now. And not even just relationships in that sense, but also like family and friends and how I act with them. It's like not taking them for granted. Do you know what I mean? That's something that I think is now very special to me. I really do value like everyone that I have around me, especially everyone that like supported me in that time as well. It gives me a different sense of gratitude. Yeah, I think gratitude is the right word, and like appreciation for them as well. And it's so hard, because sometimes like you can slip back into that space of complacency or anger towards people or just frustration or whatever. You know what I mean? Like you can slip back into that. But I think for me, it's that I know that experience is never gonna like leave my life. So therefore I know that I have something that always will like push me to be a good person, a better person, always try and connect with the people that I love, always try and maybe like do something for someone that I love or just support people in a way that I know I was supported when that hard time was for me, you know? I think it made me a bit more of a considerate person as well. It kind of allows me to be more patient and just sort of, grateful for those around me. It taught me a lot. Like that experience kind of like taught me, a lot in my life,